Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sara Kooperman. I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness. Nice to see you all. Hi, John. I'm like people are turning their cameras off. Just so you know, don't freak out if your camera isn't working and you're silenced. It's because we don't want to see you. We don't want to hear from you. No, it just keeps the bandwidth a little bit easier. But I do want you to please move your mouse, go to the bottom of your screen, right in the middle, you'll see the green share screen button. You don't need to click on that one. Just go over to the left, please, and click on the chat box. It looks like a little message signal. And I'd love you to fill your name in and where you're from. Please tell us where you're from. Oh, look, we got Maryland. We got Nancy from Maryland. We only have one person, just kidding. All right. Oh, there we go. There we go. Asheville, North Carolina, Nevada, Ottawa, Ontario. Love it. Alabama, Ohio. My gosh, Missouri, Boston, Chicago, from all over. This is great. Thank you guys for joining us. Use that chat box. If you have specific questions, these are our experts. We've got amazing people. We've got Tricia Silverman. She's an RD. She's an LD. She's an MBA. I don't know what else she is. She's a pain in whatever because she tells me I can't eat all my sugar. She's a registered dietitian and an SCW MANIA Presenter of the Year. She's also on our faculty, and she wrote, developed, and leads the SCW Nutrition for Active Aging certification. Welcome, Tricia. And we've got Sohailla Digsby, who is an RDN, an LD, a CP. What's a CPT? Certified Personal Trainer? Okay, there we go. She's a registered dietitian, author and developer of a life-changing 52-day best body countdown program for fitness pros to bring in nutrition and accountability. And we've got the wonderful Kim Miller. She's the CEO of the Garcia Institute of Modern Excellence and I can do this, Sohailla Wellness Company, with 20 years of experience in the health and fitness industry. And she specializes in motivating individuals to become their best self. And she holds 9 national certifications. And she's also, she does this really cool thing. She's a level 3 neurokinetic practitioner. She's practiced, and I don't know if I can pronounce this, ego skew posture specialist and a holistic health coach. Did I do okay?
Yeah, you're doing good.
You did okay. But Kim is amazing. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then we'll talk about sugar, okay, Tricia? But I fell, oh my gosh, I think it was 20 years ago now, Kim. I fell and broke my jaw and had to be wired shut for 6 weeks. And I fell 100% on my jaw. Well, the thing I didn't realize was I totally had horrible whiplash on my neck. So I just, for a whole year, I'd been living in this pain, just realizing you're stuck with it. Living on Advil, I was stuck with it. Chatting about it, she came and talked to me and basically said, I can fix you. This is after a year I'm living like this. I'm like, this woman is freaking crazy. Saw her twice. Was it twice? It was like on a Friday and a Saturday. By Sunday, I mean, the pain was gone. Yeah. Whatever. Nobody cares. I care. I love her. All right. Tricia. I love Tricia because she taught me to put things away from my counters. So I can have a few bad things, but I keep them hidden. So I'm not eating them all the time. Sohailla is the queen of beans and advice. Her advice. I'm going to start with you, Sohailla. What are some easy substitutions we can implement into our holiday recipes to cut calories and still enjoy holiday festivities?
All right. So there's a couple different ways you can do substitutions. And say you look at a can or a box and it has some ingredients you're not familiar with, or that have lots of additives. You can make your own clean version or pure version of that. An example that I use is that my brother-in-law always makes his homemade cheesecake. And instead of all the extras, he just makes it with the most few ingredients, and we put it in mason jars instead of in the big cake. And then you can sprinkle the crust on top with the graham cracker crumbs, so it's not so much of all the extras. That's one example. If you're doing a green bean casserole, you can homemake it and use whole milk and or skim milk or whatever you decide to use instead of what the can comes with for the cream soups and things like that. Or you can modify it and do something completely different, which is what I do. Sometimes instead of substituting something I like, I just come up with a whole creative new idea. And my favorite green bean casserole substitution, even though it's not similar, is to steam. You know, you just can buy the fresh green beans and poke it with the fork and steam it for 3 to 4 minutes. And I do that in the microwave right here while I'm warming some cashews to the point where they're just aromatic. So as soon as you start to smell those roasted nuts, you turn off the heat, remove the nuts, and then crank the heat up high and take those steamed beans and then just put them on that heat for a quick second with that little tiny bit of butter or oil that you use to warm the cashews, and then toss them together and they're delicious. So to me, that's my substitute for the casserole that I didn't really love, but I ate it anyway and then didn't feel so good about it in the early years of what I knew about how to do a holiday meal. So that's an example for me.
Oh, I like that. And Kim, before we turn the camera on and let all you guys in, you were talking about you make your own mushroom soup.
Yes. If I decide to make like the green bean casserole, I'll just make homemade cream of mushroom soup and mix with the green beans and make it from scratch. You can even make those fried onions homemade, and they're absolutely amazing when you make them homemade versus in the can on the shelf for 3 years. You know, I find if you make things from scratch, it's much more satiating. You're reducing any additives that you don't know is in there. That reduces your want to overeat. And, you know, we need calories as units of energy because that's what they do, is they give us fuel, but the calories should be made up of nutrients, not a bunch of fake ingredients. So that's how I keep my holiday meals healthy.
Now, you also mentioned that what are the ingredients that tend to make you overeat? That you find
things like
canned things.
Yeah, so like monosodium glutamate, like MSG, that's very common in canned soups and certain crunchy, salty things that we might put into our meals. Some of the box-made stuffings could have additives in it. High fructose corn syrup, and a lot of the fake sweeteners like sucralose, sweet and low, equal. Those are the things we try to keep out of our meals, so that way our body's not having to break down those additives that are not really required for energy within our body.
And Tricia, you always have some advice, so you got to share with us.
Well, to Kim's point, the sugar and the artificial sugars, and even the sugars, like I get a lot of questions about stevia or stevia. What do you think about it? Well, I think those keep perpetuating our cravings. So I think it's good to try to keep the sugar really low. And if you're having a craving for sugar, is there a better alternative? So I brought something to show you, and that's the sugar and ice cream. So this is a popular ice cream, and a lot of people may be drowning their COVID sorrows in this. And when you look at all the sugar in it, it really adds up. So quite a bit of sugar there. Now, I'm not saying never have ice cream. I think once in a while, but be careful how much you're buying, and think about maybe making nice cream. So I make a nice cream. It has half a banana. It has some frozen cherries. And then I put whatever type of milk you drink, you can put in there, whether it's a plant milk or a dairy milk like skim milk, and then a little bit of almond butter, some cocoa powder, and then you mix that in your blender. And it's better than, I think it's better than ice cream. It's sweet, it's creamy, but you're not getting the sugar. And when you're done, you feel like, oh, I'm satisfied. You don't feel like, oh, I want to eat another pint, you know? So I think it's something to think about, trying better, healthier alternatives. But every once in a while, if you want the real thing, think about eating it mindfully. I choose not to keep it in my house so that when we want it, go out and get it. It's a little hard in the pandemic to do that. If you are bringing it in the house, can you buy the single serve options that are out there?
Yeah, we were talking, and I love ice cream. I like, if I were on an island, I would want ice cream and I would want Ruffles potato chips. Isn't that horrible? That's horrible. Like, I should say carrots and green beans. It's not working for me. So I buy those little mochi packets, and they come at Whole Foods. And unfortunately, Sohailla mentioned that her Whole Foods had closed. Well, ours is flourishing. So they come 6 in a package. Well, I open it up and I'm eating 3 of them. So now they make them individually wrapped, so I can just have 1 of them. Or those Dove bar, instead of getting like 4 enormous Dove bars, those little small individual like tasting ones, if you just want the taste. So Sohailla, I want that recipe for you said it was the cake that your brother makes?
Cheesecake.
Oh, it's a cheesecake.
The cheesecake? Oh, you're gonna have to share. That's gonna be really good.
Okay, I'll have to get his secret recipe. I did want to say that the term that what we're talking about with all these extra additives, it's been named hyperpalatability, and it just makes your taste buds want. And so if, let's say you eat an orange and almonds and a slice of cheese, when you're done, you don't just go, oh, what I wouldn't do for 20 more almonds and another orange. But you're satisfied and you're content, just like you would be from something else, but it doesn't just keep kind of beating you up and begging you to have more. And so that's what some of those extra processed, things that have 1 more dose of sugar, 1 more dose of salt, 1 more dose of those things. So it might not be the worst thing ever to have a small amount, but it might just set you up for multiple cravings and frustrations in trying to avoid it. So sometimes, even though it's a little bit of a sacrifice on the front end, it might be a relief on the long term. And the new research that came out showed that when people were allowed to eat as much as they want from hyperpalatable foods versus other healthy foods they liked it the same degree, but they ate the hyperpalatable foods at an average of 500 calories more in the day. So you can see how that would add up. And it's not because they liked it more. They rated the foods at the same level of enjoyment, but one of them is satiating, or this one, and this one is not. So you keep eating it because of all those extras that trigger your taste buds. So it was super fascinating piece of research.
And how can we best prepare our clients to maintain healthy eating habits through the holidays? Kim, you answered this. I thought it was brilliant.
Which one was it?
I think you were talking about eat breakfast.
Yeah. Oh no, that wasn't me. That was Sohailla.
Was that you, Sohailla?
It was, I told you I have a top 10 and you said maybe try the top 5 for the time.
What was that? Like 2 or 3? All right.
So the first one was not to skip breakfast. I know some people in my family will, on certain sides of the family, say that, if we skip breakfast, we can just stuff ourselves and eat as much as later, or we earned it or we skipped it. But I really encourage people to eat a high fiber, high protein breakfast that fills you up so that you can make smart decisions the rest of the day. And I encourage people to kind of clear off the counters of all the junk, like the sweets and the special things, save those for intentional moments that you can strategically savor slowly, which is my little triple S motto. And that way, if things are sitting out, you can have fruit. And I know this might sound like a dietitian response, but at my house and at parties, if I slice up a few cucumbers and sprinkle salt on them, they go like hotcakes, whether it's adults or kids. They really do. So if you put out fresh sliced peppers and hummus and cucumbers and cherry tomatoes and things like that for the snacky times, then people will really be able to focus on savoring slowly at the meal times because they haven't filled up on all the junk in between, but you can still put out some munchies. Water stations, that's my third tip, is to put water stations everywhere, make them really pretty. Put, sliced lemon in the water, pitcher stations and the pretty glass stations with the little spout, all those things so that everybody's well hydrated and less likely to overdo it on alcohol or food, because a lot of times we confuse our thirst and hunger sensations. Number 4 is to eat the veggies first at the parties and the big meals. So put them at the front of your buffet line, put them on your plate first, and put them in your mouth first. And there's actually research on that to help fill up your belly with those fibrous antioxidants that are really good for you. And then when you have those other things, you'll savor them more because you won't be stuffing yourself with the really heavy palatable things first. And then the 5th and final one that I'll share for now is to, when I said strategically savor slowly, if it helps you to log for the day, sometimes I tell my people, you can eat anything you want today, just write every morsel down, every BLT, bite, lick, sip, taste, write it all down. And you can have it. Just look at it and be like, this is going to be worth writing down, and eat it slowly and enjoy it. And then keep a record, just kind of in a little journal or notebook off to the side so that you can know that you're not overdoing it and you won't be sorry tomorrow. So that's just some tips to start off with your client.
Oh, I think those are fantastic. And we got a question from Nancy, who said, help, she's addicted to salt and she keeps bags of Old Bay seasoned cheese doodles in her car trunk. I love you, Nancy. Okay, I'm pretty good at rationing, but salt is my major weakness. Anything to suggest as a substitute? Who's got an idea? Oh, there she goes, going in the cabinet.
Two things that I think could be really helpful. First of all, be very careful about keeping food in your car. If that car gets hot, not so great for the food if there's like wide swings in the temperature ranges. So be careful about keeping food in your car. These are roasted chickpeas. You can make your own. I happen to like this brand because they don't add a lot of junk to it or junky oils. The oil that they happen to use in this one is expeller pressed canola oil, organic expeller pressed canola oil. And that's a better choice to have than regular canola oil. I give the thumbs down, but expeller pressed means that they're not using harsh chemicals to extract the oil from the seed. And again, you can make your own chickpeas as well. These are salty. I think they almost taste like pretzels in a way. So that's a good option. Another one, dry roasted edamame beans, that can be really helpful. But be careful because too much salt can cause us to want to eat more, like Kim was mentioning, when you eat the salt and too much fat. And, when you kind of mix that together with sugar too, then that can really, make you crave a lot more. But I think when I'm craving something salty, this tends to do it for me. I had these earlier today, and I think it's important, think about measuring it out. So I have several sets of measuring tools available. So if I measure a 4th cup of these, for a snack, then I have another set of measuring tools. So I'll have another 4th cup available if I'm measuring something, nuts out or something else out later on. So that I think can be really, really helpful.
Oh, those are great ideas.
Yeah, can I share some? I want to share some tips too. I work with a lot of people with chronic disease, and craving salt a lot tends to be an issue with the thyroid also. So one thing is making sure you're getting in enough fuel for your thyroid. Sometimes if you go too long without eating, your body's not getting what it needs. So you're going to start craving that salt more. Just like what Sohailla was saying about if you skip breakfast on a holiday, you're going to want to binge later. So the other thing you could do is your body does need a certain level of sodium to be healthy. So maybe use some sea salt on your main meals. Like if you make your homemade breakfast or your lunch, put some real sea salt on that to satiate what your body needs, because there are minerals available that your body has to have. And for me, what I do is I like to buy organic, non-GMO popcorn kernels, and I make it homemade on top of the stove. And then that way, if I feel like I need something salty, crunchy, I know what's in it, I know where it came from, and it's instantly fresh. And that's a great way to help kind of curb a salt craving. Now, not everybody can eat popcorn kernels though. So if you can't have popcorn, you could also use some of Tricia's ideas also. That'd be excellent.
Oh, those are great suggestions. We now, Connie Warsilla's on. So many clients, friends, family give sugary sweets for gifts. And she says, I feel bad about throwing it away, but what other choice is there? Tricia.
I have a saying for that. Trish says, trash it. So you can put it on your waste or in the waste basket. Don't feel bad about junky foods. If no one will take them, if you try to give them away first, if no one will take them, in the trash they go. Some people have to pour junk over it like mayonnaise or mustard just so they won't dig in. Hey, if you have to do that, no shame in that, as long as you're not eating it. But I would say trash it if you don't want to be eating that stuff. Don't feel bad about it. One year, my mother-in-law was trying to give me a cake. I don't want the cake. Here's the cake. You have that struggle sometimes with people, and it's like they're giving you love. We stopped at the first gas station. Sorry, Carol. And we threw the cake in the trash because I knew if it came home with me, I'm going to dig into that. So I keep it out of the house. It's not to say I can't have it once in a while, but I didn't want to bring a whole cake. I work out of my home, so I want a whole cake staring at me. Nope. So just, something to think about. No shame in throwing it out.
What's funny is a lot of people know I have 4 kids. All right. I have a 30-year-old, 27, 25, 23. Oh my God, they're all athletes. They're all working out and eating. It's the best thing during the holidays. Never gain an ounce, and then they go away and they're all at school. You know what? I put on like 10 pounds. I put on like 10 pounds. You know why? I was actually finishing my own meal, because usually they inhale and then they're digging off my plate. So when they're gone, I will give it to one of their friends, you know, who's still here. So I feel bad throwing it away. I feel like, I know it's not healthy, but there's a lot of people that can afford those extra calories and almost just and keep eating, you know, healthy. What are your favorite healthy holiday meal go-tos? Like, if I know a lot of us, we were talking about this before we turned the camera on, but it's weird. I usually am very concerned about nutrition because I'm getting these cookies, I'm getting the cakes and things like that. You go to the club and somebody baked, you know, these new brownies. We're not going to the health club. We're not going to the parties that we used to. So it's not like right there, but I still want to think of something festive that I can do that is still holiday-esque, but it's healthy. So, anyone? Sohailla? Okay.
Listeners coming through.
Favorite go-tos is chocolate covered strawberries.
Oh, yes. You brought those ones.
Pardon me?
You brought those ones to a Mania presenter.
Yes,
party.
I brought them to Atlanta Mania once.
They're the best.
Yes, and they're so simple. The best tip is when you're melting your chocolate in a Pyrex, and you don't have to do the double boiler and all that. That's intimidating. When you're melting your chocolate in the Pyrex, make sure there's not a drop of water in that dish, and dry your strawberries after you wash them and let them air dry and pat dry so there's no water, because that ruins it. But it's really not at all difficult. Make it in a small Pyrex so you can dip it real nice and then just set it on wax paper. It's a very beautiful, impressive something to bring, and you know that you've got some strawberries and just a little bit of chocolate, not enough to get anybody into big trouble. That's one of my favorite go-tos.
And dark chocolate.
Ideally.
We can pretend it's healthier, can't we? Can't we? The antioxidants in it.
Yeah.
And then nutrition has already been greatly affected by the pandemic. What can we do to help our clients through one of the most nutritionally difficult times of the year?
Kim, do you want to go ahead?
You go ahead. I'll take it next. You're good.
Sure. One of the things that I recommend is meditation to help with your nutrition. Many people, probably most of the people on the call tonight, know what to do, but may have a hard time actually doing it. And our clients are the same way. They know, many of them know what to do. There's a great app called Insight Timer. It's free. I've been using it since the beginning of the pandemic. Whether you're going through sadness or grief or work stress, you can search those terms in the search bar and then get a meditation that helps you to deal with that. Or if you want something more in your life, like more focus, I wanted more productivity one day. I put the word productivity in there, motivation. You can search that. You can search if you're having issues with food, put that in there, and things will come up, and meditations that you can meditate on. And the meditation helps you to get in better control of your brain to help you make those good choices. Just like fitness helps you to build a bigger brain, helps with your executive functioning to make better choices. So for my clients that come to me for nutrition, there's always a fitness discussion of, can you bump up your fitness? Can we move more? And that's going to help you to make better choices. So I kind of basically all the time, approach nutrition from a side angle as well to help people out and help them to make better choices through meditation and through bumping up their movement.
What is that app called again?
Insight Timer. I'll write it into the chat. It's
actually Mike Lieber is running our webinar tonight. He's a cinematographer. He's amazing. And he already put it in the chat box. So
perfect.
If you guys want it, please, you can, click on it and please come back to us. Don't go drifting off and meditating without us. But it's great. Thank you, Mike, for putting that into the chat box. Kim.
Well, especially with the issue with our immune system and the stress involved with what's happened this year, we all know that stress is linked to like 90% of disease. And the way our body helps stay healthy during this time is based on what we eat. Our cells take in nutrients from the environment and then convert it into energy and help carry out specialized functions in the body, like operating our immune system, our cardiovascular system, our nervous system. So if we think about wanting to have our best vitality during this time and to reduce cellular stress in the body, if we eat for that thought that we want to stay as strong and vital as possible through this tough time, it drastically helps us make decisions for the right reasons versus emotion-based or short-term gratification. And then it also, as we talked about earlier, if you're fueling your body with those best foods that are nutrient dense, it's going to prevent the overeating. It's going to reduce cravings. It's not going to make you crave the salty sugar as much. A lot of us know that if we get in enough protein, it automatically reduces the cravings. So if you just change your mindset around why you're eating during this time and how our choices are so critical to our vitality during this time, that can help reduce how we make our decisions. A lot of self-talk. It's going to be intentional, but it's worth it because the vitality we gain from it is phenomenal.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. So Sohailla, I'm going to be, I'm going to change my mind here. Can you share with us those next 5 of your top 10?
Yes, and I also have to mention that Tricia mentioned beans. She brought up the edamame. Just for the record, she's the bean queen of the night.
I keep teasing these guys because they keep talking about healthy protein. You know, beans are great and the fiber and whatever. Okay, there, go ahead.
Well, that's a great segue to my next one, which is Fiber Makes You Sexy. I have written 4 books, and I think my 5th one will be called Fiber Makes You Sexy because I know it'll just make you curious to open up the book, even though it's a weird title. So we'll see if I really do that. But whenever you're eating, I want you to think, well, fiber makes me sexy. So go for the most fibrous foods first, because those are the ones that usually pack all the good stuff that's going to help your heart health and help prevent cancer and all those things that you may not be thinking of in the moment, but you do want to feel satiated and nice and full. And the fiber helps with that too. So that's my number 6. Then at my house, one thing I do is what I call the on-hand dish of the week. And then this is my favorite secret I want to show you. And I brought some show and tell to show you. So every week I make a dish that serves 8 or 12, and it's usually something broth based that I can extend. And we eat it like one lunch and one dinner, one lunch, or one dinner, 2 lunches, whatever it is, depending on what it is and what you like. And then whatever's left from it, I freeze that. And so this is my kale and white bean soup. That was my on-hand dish of the week the other day. This is white chicken chili. I grabbed these and see how they stack. I have a section of my freezer called my food file. I just named it that, and I made that up, but you can have a food file too. The whole top of my freezer is just one section of those. And so I make enough, and I have 3 kids that eat like a basketball team because they're 10, 14, and 17. And then my husband and I, so often we'll get through half of that 8 to 12, serving batch. And then we'll freeze the other half, and I'll mark what it is and put the date. And then I'll put it into my freezer file rotation. And then one day when I'm at an SCW event live, when they get to happen again, the whole top of the freezer food file and my family's all set. And you literally just pop it out of this like a big Lego block into a pot or an Instapot or a crock pot or even in the microwave. And then it's ready to go. And you can just put some scallions and avocado on top or whatever it is. So I have one of those for each week. And some of them are bean based, like the kale and white bean or the white chicken chili. One of them is a black bean soup. And I don't love beans, believe it or not, Sarah. I don't love them, but I know that my heart loves them. And that's the main reason people die, is when their hearts give up. So I don't want that to be, and your digestive system loves that. So even though you don't think it does, because it's talking to you, it does. So that's how I work those beans in so that all my family's getting them. And one of my children has to be gluten-free. And so all those foods you just heard me name have a great variety of protein and carbohydrate and vegetables and all that without adding the gluten. So I have a bunch of those. Actually, I wanted to share some of them with you. So I have a little way I can send those. Would you like me to share that, Sarah, that text?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. You can text
we'll put it when
the word fresh.
When we do our webinars, we record all the webinars, and we'll send everybody who listened in tonight, actually everybody who registered, the recording. And then when you click on it, you'll see the links underneath, which I think is very helpful. You know, you mentioned that one of your kids is gluten-free, and I know I'm getting a little bit off track here, but what are your thoughts on gluten-free? I think I was mentioning one of my sons tends to be very, he has a lot of physical issues, and he also got migrainosis, which is a lasting migraine, and he went to a gluten-free and a keto diet, and it was anti-inflammatory, and it really helped the headache significantly. I'm wondering, Kim, I'm going to go to you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, we primarily eat gluten-free in my household. 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with chronic Epstein-Barr virus, and I had multiple symptoms that nobody could figure out. And I found out that flour-based products block nutrients like vitamin B6 and other B vitamins from being absorbed. And when that happens, it caused a host of other symptoms to occur. So really, if we do eat any kind of gluten, we try to make it as whole and homemade as possible, and really just stick to meat, potatoes, fruits, vegetables, whole foods from the earth, because it really does. A lot of gluten-based products are much lower in nutrients also. So not only do they block the nutrient absorption, they also deprive you of nutrients that your body needs in order to function at optimal levels. So it really helps prevent pain and help everything work well if you keep gluten to a minimum.
Yeah, and that's actually what he discovered. We can have point counterpoint here. Anybody got any differing opinions on this? Tricia, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think long-term, if you're looking at aging, I know he's young, but long-term unsaturated fats are better for your brain long-term. Saturated fat, if you're eating keto, it means you're eating a lot of fat, and eventually you're just eating too much saturated fat when you eat that way, because an example is olive oil is very healthy for us, and we often kind of make it easy for people and say it's monounsaturated. But you'll see there is a little bit of saturated fat. Even if we choose healthier fats, if we eat 60 to 70% fat, we're going to be getting too much saturated fat at some point. I worry about the long-term health, but I know, you know, if something's working for your son, I don't want to discourage him, but from an active aging standpoint, too much red meat over the long term is inflammatory. It's not anti-inflammatory. So that's, you know, vegetables and fruits are anti-inflammatory, but red meat is inflammatory, and there's a lot of research to support that. So that's my, you know, take on it after reading lots of studies about long-term, the health of your brain, the health of your heart, long-term.
Yeah, I should say he eats a lot of fish.
That's great.
So and a lot of fresh vegetables. He just stays away from the breads and the pastas, and it seems to have helped.
And one thing I want to add is a lot of people who are doing the ketogenic diet, if they're not doing it for epilepsy's sake, then they're usually not doing it at the actual ratios of a true ketogenic diet. And they may be giving up on the cookies and the candies and the coffee drinks and all those. And really what they needed to do in the first place is give those up. But sometimes they do it and it kind of falls under the name of ketogenic diet. But if they were to pee on the keto sticks, they wouldn't qualify as ketogenic. And that's okay, because if it's helping them get rid of some of the junk, it can be good, especially if their fats are healthy fats. But I do know some people who are on it who eat tons of red meat, whole fat dairy, and those are inflammatory, like Tricia said. So we have to be careful. People throw that word around a lot and don't really know what it means, but lots of meat and dairy are inflammatory, and a ketogenic diet only allows 5 to 10% of your total calories to be carbohydrates. So even once you've had a cup or two of veggies, you can push over that. If you can eat lean proteins, healthy fats, and a bunch of veggies and avoid some of those other foods, that's ultimately the goal. Call it. So some people use that name and it's helping them make some better choices, but it's not a technically defined diet outside of epilepsy. So people kind of use it in different ways. Did you?
It's kind of like, you know, when somebody's personally training somebody, they're like, we're going to do plyometric movements. No, you're really kind of jumping around, but it's okay. You can call it plyometrics. Kim.
Yes, I think what I would say, instead of promoting any diet, just cut out man-made food and then just eat the whole foods from the earth and keep that balanced. For me personally, I had to eat more grass-fed red meat to heal my heart and to eliminate the symptoms of chronic Epstein-Barr, because there are nutrients in red meat that's much higher than in other choices. So like 4 ounces of red meat has about 67% of your B12 needs. It takes about 5 chicken breasts to equal that same amount of B12. There's a nutrient called alpha lipoic acid in red meat that helps heal the nervous system, and lots of iron. So I was anemic for several years. I haven't been anemic now in more than a decade. So that's been really, really wonderful, because your energy is much different when you don't have anemia. So there's a lot of different theories on it. And some people do really good sticking to like their genetics. So what did their people of their culture eat for centuries before? So are they Irish, German? So the main goal is to cut out man-made food, cut out fake foods, and then eat balanced meals, just like our great-grandparents did. I mean, my great-grandparents knew nothing about nutrition, and they lived into the late 80s, early 90s, their mind in full tact, no knee replacements, no back surgeries, no hip replacements. So they must have been doing something right, because I know a lot of people that were born in the early 1900s, that they were just so resilient. And right now it's 1 in every 2 individuals over the age of 18 that have a chronic musculoskeletal issue. And some of that has to do with how we're feeling ourselves.
Now, nutrition has already been greatly affected by the pandemic. I'm jumping into the next question because I can't believe it. We're like getting close to time, which always surprises me. What can we do to help our clients through one of the most nutritionally difficult times of the year? And I know, Tricia, you mentioned the meditation. I love, Sohailla, that you said, reduce what you're eating. And Kim, you said, eat things that are more fresh. But let's say we got to have a little bit of the guilty pleasure. What can we swap out? What are some other suggestions that you guys might have?
One of the things that I've done is put out fruit and then have interesting dipping sauces. At one holiday event, it was the Easter Passover celebration, I brought strawberries and a vanilla dipping sauce to the event. And there were 2 tables and people were arguing who would get the strawberries and the dipping sauce. The dipping sauce was vanilla yogurt, and I didn't tell them that, but they loved it. So there's one called Siggi's, SIGGI''S, and that one is low. It has some sugar, but it's on the lower side, so you can use that as a dipping sauce. Another nice dipping kind of concoction is to take ricotta cheese or ricotta cheese and put a little bit of almond butter in there and a little dash of vanilla extract, and then you can dip fruit in that. You can also bake apple slices, or you can put them in the microwave with cinnamon and nutmeg and ginger, and it's kind of like apple pie without the crust. And then you can put a little yogurt or one of those dipping sauces on the side, and that can be a real nice dish to have. One other thing we do in my family, we cut up celery sticks and we put non-fat ricotta or skim ricotta cheese in the celery sticks, and then we put sliced olives on there, and it looks really festive to have the green, the white, and the black olives in there. So that's another fun little display, a little appetizer that can be put out.
Those are great suggestions. Somebody asked, actually Cynthia asked, what about keto? And again, I know we're not doing the pure form here, but what about keto for type 2 diabetes?
You can definitely
go ahead, Sohailla.
You can definitely bring your blood sugar down when you reduce carbohydrates, but you don't have to reduce carbohydrates completely if you just choose really healthy, high fiber carbohydrates, and you get a lot of nutrients from those and smaller amounts. So a lot of times diabetes can also be reduced by losing 10% of your body weight if you're overweight. And that's not all that much. If you're 200 pounds and 40 of that's overweight, even if you lose just 20 in making good choices, your diabetes will improve a lot. In fact, if you're on the borderline, you can literally get off the borderline and clear yourself from that diabetes if you can maintain your weight. So doing some of those changes when it helps you lose weight will help you with your diabetes too. And also, I should mention, we've talked about eating whole foods, but I also have a lot of clients who eat too much whole foods, and then they still have problems with their diabetes. So we still have to be moderate. And in America, we struggle with how to define moderation. So that's something to be, really thinking about. But with ketogenic, it does help people not have such heavy cravings. And remember, we've already talked about those hyperpalatable foods that perpetuate the cravings. And so really, we just need to cut out a lot of those foods instead of going the dramatic swing of ketogenic. Is almost impossible to keep up at that high level. People have to do olive oil shots and eat whole avocados. It's very, very difficult. I hardly know any client or patient who actually does it according to the books, but you don't have to do it according to the books to have the diabetes improvement and weight loss, is what I'm trying to say. You just really need to adjust some of those extra junky carbohydrate foods, like all the box things with the long list of things you've never heard of. A lot of those things are what was getting you in trouble in the first place. Not that half a sweet potato that was on a quarter of your plate. That wasn't, that will make your blood sugar go up, but it's that plus the roll on the side, plus the drink, plus the dessert after. That's what's getting a lot of people in more trouble.
And Kim, you were nodding and.
No, I completely agree with her. And with diabetes too, your blood sugar can be impacted based on things you're allergic to. And most people are slightly to chronically allergic to these additives. So when they just go to these natural based diets, it automatically helps to moderate their blood sugar. And then timing of food. Some people will wait all day long till eat at the end of the day. And sometimes it's just too much all at once. And sleep helps with your blood sugar also. So it's just really about spoiling our body, making sure we're treating our body as a temple.
Go ahead, Tricia.
Yeah, I just want to add, I'll try to keep it quick. Diabetes puts you at higher risk for heart disease. A plant-based diet can actually help with diabetes and may help to reverse it, especially when you see weight loss with switching to that type of diet. So that's something to keep in mind, that association with heart disease. So you want to eat in a way that reduces your risk, not only for the diabetes, but also for the heart disease, and a plant-based diet can help get you there.
Now, Leslie actually asked, what about coconut chips as a healthy snack, or substituting and using coconut oil?
I would get the pure ones. There's ones that don't have anything added. Some of them come a little sweetened. I don't recommend that. So get the ones that are just coconut, just one ingredient in the label. And be careful with coconut oil. It is saturated, and we want to just keep your saturated fat on the lower side. I think the internet kind of makes coconut oil look like it's this cure-all. I don't believe that to be so. I think if you like it, have some, but I think oils should be minimized. And I think that if you do oil, extra virgin olive oil is the oil with the most research behind it due to the Mediterranean diet. But these other oils really don't have good studies behind them. So just be careful.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's great advice. So I'm going to end, okay, because we're getting close to the end. I want to have, if you could share with me your personal favorite healthy holiday recipe. Now, I know, Sohailla, you talked about the strawberries dipped in chocolate. That is awesome. And I want that recipe too. And, but what can you guys share with me? What are your favorite holiday recipes?
Let's let Tricia go first.
Yeah, well, in my family in New York is Italian, and there are very heavy foods there. So I like to have an alternative to that. I'm not going to tell them don't make, the stuffed shells anymore, because they won't let me in the house if I tell them that. So let them make the stuffed shells. I don't have to eat that if I don't want. Last year, I made a bean-based dish, and lots of people wanted it, and they wanted the leftovers. So bean-based dish, that one happened to be diced tomatoes with chickpeas and then some Italian seasoning on it. And then I made a big batch I brought my rice cooker to New York, a big batch of rice in my rice cooker. So we had a vegetarian alternative, and people dug in, and they actually took some for work the next day, because people had to work the next day. And it was a big winner. And, if you wanted the heavier stuff, that's fine, but there was a healthier alternative.
Oh, that's a great idea. Want that recipe too. And Kim?
Okay, I'm not as interesting. I'm very traditional, so it's going to be a turkey and, you know, baked potatoes, sweet potatoes, all different vegetable sides. There's an amazing fruit salad recipe though that we make in place of like that marshmallow fruit salad that a lot of people make, but it's a little bit in depth that I think I need to send it to you guys to post it. It is excellent, but it's like 6, 7 fruits and some mint leaves and different stuff. So I should just post it later for the sake of time and sanity for everybody else. But this holiday, we're doing something a little different since it was just Thanksgiving. We're going to do a bunch of healthy hors d'oeuvres on Christmas Eve, like different things like what each of the other ladies were speaking of. And then we're actually going to do like fillets, grilled chicken, fish, and baked potatoes. We're keeping it simple this year, you know, instead of the big ordeal we just did on Thanksgiving.
And Sohailla?
An appetizer that I like that is red and green is a mozzarella cheese stick, and you cut it in like 3 or 4 chunks, and you take a skinny skewer, and you put mozzarella cheese stick, 2 fresh basil leaves, and a cherry tomato, and repeat depending on how long your skewer is, and then drizzle a little bit of balsamic vinegar and olive oil mixed together on top with some fresh cracked pepper or salt. Super pretty, super good, easy appetizer. I also love spiced nuts, pecans, and other nuts because I know that's super healthy and that has good satiating power. That's another thing that I kind of set out. I told you about the green bean and cashew dish. It's really simple, but it's really delicious. Then we do the traditional turkey, actually, because of a dairy allergy at my house. As I mentioned, I've tried to do lots of different things with mashed potatoes. And this past Thanksgiving, I did mashed potatoes with just the starchy water instead of, and you would not believe, nobody knew and everybody raved about them. And then I was like, there was no dairy in those mashed potatoes, guys. And they were shocked. So I used the starchy water that comes up to the top of the boiling potatoes without any dairy and just a little bit of Smart Balance. And it was really, really creamy and good and perfect. Nobody wondered where the dairy was or anything. So for those who do need to do that, that was a healthy way to do it. And then the green beans, and then just, you know, focusing on those veggies. One other salad that I did this Thanksgiving that was delicious is it was romaine and then sliced almonds or roasted pecans. You can do either one, and then thinly sliced pears. And when you lay the pears over the romaine and the almonds, I prefer the pecans myself, but they both work, especially for the sliced almonds, because then you get very little calories, but you get that crunch and that roasted flavor. And then drizzle plain balsamic vinegar. It's not even a dressing, but it melts into the pear and it is so, so good. And you can add feta or blue cheese if you want. So those are kind of the staples that we do to get lots of colors on our plate. And it's really indulgent tasting, but not indulgent in terms of how it fuels your body.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you guys for sharing all this wonderful wisdom. I can't wait to get those links and download them. I'm going to end this webinar with our certification smash, which we're having this coming weekend, and our wonderful video. So I thank you all for joining us tonight. And Mike Lieber, thank you for running such a great webinar for us. Tricia, thank you. Sohailla, thank you. Kim, it's great to see you again and have you back. And I thank you all for joining us. Please eat healthy, eat whole foods, avoid the sugar, except for a little ice cream. Okay, bye everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Very little ice cream.